The end of contracts has been announced, and I think the timing is no coincidence. Why did Konami do this, and what does it mean for the future of the game? Will there even be a reset this or next year? I'll let you know what I think right now. Here comes Pippa. Welcome everybody! As usual, I'll be showing you random goals while I speak. There has been a lot of discussion about the removal of contracts. Is the change good? Is it bad? I'll try to cover most of it. So all of this is obviously just my opinion. I have no affiliation to Konami nor any inside information. It's all just my thoughts. I could be wrong. Let's start with why contracts are going to be removed by asking ourselves what their purpose actually was. Basically, one unique selling point by Konami is that unlike EAFC, we don't have to start over every year, which I think is great by the way. But Konami is a business, and like every business, they want to make money. In my opinion, so you don't only spin a few times and then keep these players forever without spinning any further, contracts were supposed to make sure you can only keep few players forever. So if you want to have a competitive team, at some point you would have to pay again. Now, before I talk about how successful contracts were, let's talk about their one major downside, which I think is the reason they will be gone. At a game of this size, the player base will always be fluctuating, meaning some people stop playing, new players come to the game, and some players return after a break. Now imagine a player comes back after many months or even more than a year of not playing the game. Instead of returning to the game and being like, yeah, let's go, can't wait to play with my old boys again, the player will be like, wait, I can't use any of them anymore, and now I need to either renew all contracts or get like 20 new players? The latter isn't fun. Not only did this player lose his team, he also needs to spend time navigating through game menus, either using contracts or signing new players. This can quickly drain any kind of initial motivation the player had, which he probably did, otherwise he wouldn't have returned. And this is very suboptimal, because the more players you can keep, the more paying players will be among them. Returning players are very important for companies. I'm sure many of you have probably received emails when you were inactive in whatever game, possibly offering you bonuses, skins or discounts if you'd log on again. This is why I said the point in time when the contracts are going to be removed is not a coincidence. Because obviously when eFootball 2025 will be released, a lot more former players than usual might try it out again to see what has changed. And if there are some good changes, perhaps the word will spread and even more players come back to try it out. And because of the change, all of them will be able to use their previous teams and can hop into a game straight away. No time wasted renewing contracts or signing new GP players to be able to even play. Nobody will be driven away by this. Now, before I talk about possible resets, let's see how contracts actually affect the players, because this is the vital part about whether this is a good change, a bad one, and what consequences may arise from it. Do you know the country that spends most money in online games? It's Wales. I'm sorry for this atrocious attempt of a joke. Anyway, to make it more simple, I'll divide the player base into 3 categories. There are obviously more, but let's keep it simple. Number 1, the free players who never spend. Number 2, the players who try to spend just as much to have a team that is close to being able to compete with the best teams. Let's call them dolphins. Number 3, the big spenders. They spin lots of packs, and getting or trying new players is part of their entertainment. Let's call them whales. I don't mean this derogatory, by the way. These terms are actually used. So how do contracts influence the spending behavior of these 3 groups? The free players, not at all, because obviously they're free and won't pay anyway. The whales, I am sure there is no change for them either, for 2 reasons. The first one is, thanks to, for example, highlight players in packs, they get a lot more contracts than other groups anyway. The second one is, for most players, beta versions of their cards are released faster than the contract duration ends. This means that they don't need to extend the contract of Patrick Vieira, they just get a new one. To be sure, I even consulted somebody who does spend a lot on the game, and he could keep renewing his complete first 11 for over 3 years. That's how many contracts he has. Now, what about the Dolphins? In my opinion, they're the ones that would use contracts for paid players the most, as they are sort of min-maxing to keep a competitive squad for as long as possible by paying as little as possible. Obviously, this is the most diverse group, so it's hard to speak for them as one, but using myself as an example, I have 840 days worth of contracts, which means I could keep 11 players for 2.5 months. However, if I get the time to play Division, I usually grind to Division 1 as quick as I can, which, depending on how much time I have, takes from 2 days to a week. Why am I telling you this? Because I could simply save the 10 days contracts for this, meaning contracts would only barely affect me because I only need one 10-day contract per player to have him for a month of Division play. And I'm sure other people would do this too. If I wanted to be ultra effective, I could even use the last 5 days of one and the first 5 days of the next season to use my paid players in divisions twice, effectively saving 5 10-day contracts. Many events are player restricted anyway. We could just play these events without the paid cards. On top of that, there are also GP contract renewals. So of course I can't speak for everybody. There are probably people affected by expiring contracts. But for me personally, the Dolphin group probably representing me best, I think contracts are not going to make me spend more ever. So in my opinion, there's a decent chance that contracts are not making a large portion of the player base spend more money. There are surely many edge cases where they do, but as I said, I try to keep it simple. We also have to consider if me or anyone else ever ran out of contracts, this would not automatically mean that we'd spend more. We might just be annoyed and not play as much or even quit. From the developer's point of view, in my opinion, contracts have very little good aspects right now. The downsides of contracts, however, can drive players away. So we actually have to give Konami props for removing them. However, my point of view might be limited. I could be wrong. But what does this mean for the game now? Will there be a reset this year or maybe next year? Imagine they just do a surprise reset for eFootball 2025. People who purchased cards up until the end of eFootball 2024 would be furious. Many of them could be leaving the game. I don't think that's gonna happen. So what if they announced a reset for eFootball 2026, giving the players an early notice to what's coming? Honestly, I don't think that's gonna happen either, because obviously the closer the game would be to the next version, the less people would be spending. So in theory, assuming my thoughts aren't too far off, this could actually be a win-win situation. We win because we can keep our players forever, and Konami wins because returning players are no longer driven away by having expired teams. However, as I told you initially, I could be wrong. But you know what? Let's just assume I actually was wrong and contracts do make a significant amount of people in the Dolphin group spend a lot more. Well then, the removal of contracts would reduce the revenue that Dolphins produce, because they would not need to replace their expired cards with new paid cards anymore, but could keep their old ones. In this case, Konami would probably want to get the total revenue back to at least the original level. But how? One approach could be to accelerate the speed at which cards get better. Being able to keep your cards forever will be less useful then, because relatively to your opponents, they'll be worse earlier and you will need new ones to compete. This strategy, however, could backfire, because if you accelerate it too much, you might push a significant portion of the Dolphin group into the free-to-play group, because they could be like, well, cards get better so fast now, I don't want to keep up with this anymore, making them go free-to-play or even quit the game. Also, right now the game can't do this forever, because at some point the stat limit is reached. However, what they could do is readjust how the stats work every time this happens. So for example, let's say right now 120 could be the top value for each stat. No idea what it really is. Next season it could be 125. But it only shows as 125 but actually acts the same as 120 the season before. What else could they do to increase the revenue? I mean, obviously they could just increase the price for coins or make boxes bigger to change the odds. I don't think either will happen though, because these are obvious changes that you can instantly see and will probably make the player base angry, possibly resulting in some players spending less. A more realistic scenario would be, for example, to only have one extremely good player in a box alongside with two not so good ones. As an extreme example, think of a box where you'd have Patrick Vieira, Massimo Oddo and Xabi Alonso. Now compare this to what we actually had: Vieira, Gilberto Silva and no helmet Czech. Instead of getting 3 endgame players, you'd only get 1. So you'd have to spin 3 boxes to get 3 endgame players. So now ultimately, is the change of removing contracts good or not? Well, the big question will be how the removal of contracts influences the spending behavior of the Dolphin Group. If they contribute to Konami's revenue stream the same way they do now, then I think the change can be good. If not, then Konami might do something we could not like very much to make up for the loss of revenue. That's my opinion. That's it, folks. Let me know if you liked this video. I'd love if you subscribed, liked, or commented. Until then, guys, take it easy. Shaka!